Oh, holy buckets. Well, Wednesday hit a little harder than usual, didn't it? Oof. This is gonna get a little loud, so I'm trying to find a happy medium here while also apparently moving my mic all over the place, ruining everybody's earbuds. How was everybody's Wednesday? I don't even know, man. I gotta drink a cup of tea before I can dive headfirst into beer, but let me tell you, whew. Milk salmon and mere love. Thank you for the follows. I don't think you guys are in chat, but thank you anyway. Oh, heavens to Betsy. We're just gonna hang out, vibe for a little bit before we just, dive fully into it, Make sure everything is. We are good. We're doing good. Okay. Oh, well, I was gonna do a Pokemon hunt today, and then the manure hit the windmill everywhere, and I'm like, I feel like we need something a little cozier, or something a little different. So instead, we're gonna play Spiritfarer, and it was on sale today on the Nintendo store. It's like 15. It was 50% off, so it was like $15 for Spiritfarer, and I have it on Gamepass, and I absolutely adore it there. But I know that it's made for the Switch because you play it with a keyboard, but you can tell that it's kind of made to be played on a controller. So I want to play it on the controller. We're gonna make this happen. So I don't know. I'm also actually I was thinking about like listening to different music on another thing, but I'm feeling a little too ADHD to have multiple things happening in my ears all at once tonight. Anyway. If you're in chat and you are just ready and willing, just let me know. I'm just going to throw this into chat too. Let me know what you're thinking tonight because we are vibing. Oh. I'm still going through my beer advent calendar from my lovely father. As far as I know, this is the only IPA in the box. It's already been chilled. It's a German IPA. I am skeptical because I think I've like one IPA. I like one IPA, and it is the Voodoo Ranger Imperial IPA. This is not Imperial IPA. I don't know. Oh, that was kind of a anticlimactic. Yes. We're just gonna hang on. I feel like my camera's dropping frames. It's pretty. Ooh, I can smell tropical fruits. A lot of tropical. There's also some wet dog happening there, which is, oof. You know? Oh, weird. Oh. I don't hate that, but at the same, it feels like it's a little weak. Like it's not all there. That might be because, if I think IPA, I think my favorites have been kind of hit you in the face. That feels kind of watered down, like, huh. All right. Well, there it is. I don't hate it, but I wish it was the Voodoo Ranger. That's all. Voodoo Ranger, call me. Hey. They've had for a while a sponsorship with a couple of Rooster Teeth shows. And I am just so very pleased that they're able to do that, because that's just so much fun. And I'm a little jelly. I'd like to be sponsored by like a beer company. That'd be friggin' amazing. You kidding me? Are you kidding me? That would be amazing. Okay. Okay. We're gonna switch in. I think this is probably maybe gonna be our view. I don't know. We'll see how it looks. As you can see, we are doing a fresh start. We haven't even loaded in. This game looks pretty good with my overlay. Not gonna lie. Look, we're all matching with the yellow and the sort of deco-y, you know? Loving it. Okay, fair warning. Oh, there's a co-op feature. This game is a tearjerker, so. But it's also just really good. It's also just really, really good. It's such a good game. I love it. Ooh, we're gonna try and. Oh, you know what? The sound design in this is too good. We have to crank this. It's so good. Ah, finally. Thought for a second you would never wake up, little one. How ironic that would have how ironic that would have been. What? Okay, I'm not blocking that. I am Cheiron? Cheiron. I say Cheiron. Yeah. The Spiritfarer. Well, that is what I have been until your arrival. I cannot say that I am sad to leave, but I still had a few things left to do here. I'm afraid that you will have to pick up things where I left them. It is, after all, my very last day. And you are? Stella. There is no option for picking your name. You're just Stella in this game, because your character also has a background. Welcome, Stella. So this is like kind of a cozy game with like, there's themes of like death and moving on and like afterlife and, you know, what happens after. Like it's a very thoughtful game, I think. I see you have brought a friend here with you. What's his name? Daffodil. I see. You two will share the burden then, and take it over from me. As I said, in a few minutes, I will be gone from this world. That is why you are here. You will be the new Spiritfarer. Listen, your task will be far from easy, but simple nonetheless. Go fetch the stray spirits stranded on the islands. When they are ready, bring them back here. Dying souls can't pass away on their own. You will have to help them fulfill their last requests, be at their service until their last breath. Big round bridge over there is the Everdoor. The Alpha, where everything starts. The Omega, where everything ends. This is where all quests get completed, and where existence meets threshold. I also have snacks, because I kind of like ran out the door while doing modding things and didn't eat my dinner, so I have cheese and crackers. There is no task more important than this one. Never forget this, Stella. There is something I need to give you. I got Now, be really careful with it. It is the Everlight. The symbol of your status here, and the only tool you will ever need. Wait, what are you? How highly inappropriate. Kitty's like, fuck you, give me one. Well, that settles it. Everlight will help you through your travels. It will be the light that shines in the darkness, the last remaining hope of the departed. Ooh. I apologize if there's double audio. Hope is a flame, the light that never falters, the beacon of eternity. It is heavy and inconvenient, but there is no greater duty than this one. The fate of lost souls rests on your shoulders. No pressure, though. Look, I was overwhelmed too at first. Just try to keep your focus. Take it one step at a time. You will soon get used to this place. Accustomed to these moments. You are the new Spiritfarers, after all. Oh, one last thing. Once I am gone, you will have to find a ship of your own. And it's not suited for you. It will fade away once it's gone. So, what you doing, Peeves? You can't mess with my focus, so you're gonna mess with something else? Tap it. You might find one not too far from here if you keep rowing in the right direction for some time. Probably. It's time. Here I go. So yeah. So long, Stella, and good luck. You will need it. It's such a pretty game. It's so pretty. Okay, so B is jump. Gotcha. You see? I don't know what is going on around here. Okay. Hold up while jumping to climb through platform. Whoops. Juggle bus. I am not good at platforming, and this is kind of at times a platform game. Nope. There it is. Yeah. Okay. Oh, shoot. Are you kidding me? Fell right off the edge. Stella. It really is you. Stand up straight and let me get a look at you. You look good. And Daffodil is here too, I see. We'll have to find a lint roller then. It might not be that obvious. After all, it's me, Gwen. Good thing you found me, but if you're here, it means... Oh. You? are the new Spiritfarer? You are the one replacing Karen? Karen? I don't know. I was trying to get rid of him and only ended up here by accident. Stuck on this disgusting island for about a week, living off sardines and cigarettes. Oh, I guess I'm blocking her dialogue boxes. Here we go. Funny how I used to be the one getting you out of trouble before. I can see you have an Everlight now? Of course. See that boat over there? Yeah. It's our boat! It's our boat! That's the one. It's obviously slightly shabby, but let's commandeer it. I'd wager it'll work since you're the Spiritfarer. Okay, meet me on the deck over there. I'll explain it all. Okay. Gonna have to get used to this. Oof. Okay, here goes. Open my fur coat. Hope my fur coat won't be too damaged. Wonderful. I'm not one to jump for joy, but this feels good. Much better than anticipated. So, the way I see it, this boat is yours now. No, we'll drink what's... Oof. Good. And as you're the Spiritfarer, welcome stray spirits is your new job. Once aboard, they will assume their true forms. Well, that's my theory anyway. Why are you looking at me like that? You need to come here and give me a hug. Oops. Oh, Y is back? Why is Y back? That's... There it is. Much better. Come with me now. Let's take a look at this chaos. Oh no. A mess. Remind me of Aunt Petunia's old yard. A beautiful unorganized testament to someone's laziness. Rude. Rude. Or a vital impossibility to get rid of anything. At any rate, we should do something about this, or my dust allergies will be back. Let me think. There's only one way to clean this up. You have to meet Albert. He's your local shipwright, and his jokes are garbage, but he's the only one who can fix your boat. We should head to Albert's shipyard. You must be wondering how to make this ship move. It's really easy, actually. Here, there, let me give you this key I found on the island. It will unlock the cabin in the back. You should find a map projector in there. How do I know all this? Well, I was planning an escape, remember? And you know me. I plan things meticulously. Very meticulously. Go open up that cabin, Stella. The map projector should be simple enough to use. You just have to go to Albert's shipyard. Alright, let's go, Gwen. Okay. Out. Ah, yeah, there he is. There's our boy. Okay. I understand the ship is powered by your Everlight. That's how it cruises the ocean and reveals the stray spirits. It also explains why I couldn't do anything by myself. You must admit, it's quite fascinating. Look, I know you must feel overwhelmed. Karen, the Everdore, the Spiritfarers, this place, this boat, me being here. It's a lot. You must be wondering what's going on. Truth be told, I don't really know either. But I'm here for you. I'll do my best to help you and try to make sense of it all. As I said earlier, I wanted to leave by myself, but somehow I just couldn't. Now that I see you, I think I know why. I'll give you some space for now. Don't hesitate to explore the ship. You can even give that fishing rod a try. The world is your oyster. Oh, fishing. Ooh. Such a good game. It's like, it's so beautiful. Oh no! I switched the inputs on. There we go. My monitor. I'm gonna turn up the TV. Okay, I'm glad I'm starting out in like easy mode for the fishing. I think I started doing this way too late, and like the first few times I tried fishing was like super hard. Super hard. Ooh. Got it. Hi, Chris! Just popping before bed. Oh, the cat is great. Ooh. The cat is great. The cat is your bud. Thanks for popping in, Chris. Appreciate you. Have a good rest. This is a really great game to like vibe to because it's just so chill. Here we are. Now head down to Albert's shipyard and upgrade your blueprint station. It's the only way to clear this clutter. Good night. Love you. Have a good sleep. I'm curious about what it's all made of. Considering the smell, I'd see at least 7 different types of dirt and dust. Oh, and there's already stuff on the edge of our ship. You can like clear off the barnacles and stuff, and there's mussels on there, and there's oysters that get rooted there, which is interesting because I got terrible timing with the crackers. I'm very sorry. He's definitely got like a pirate voice, so give me 1 second. Welcome to my shipyard, young traveler, where my prices are customer's best friend. I'm Albert. Been in the business of shipbuilding for ages. Albert's the best. Should I assume you're the new Spiritfarer? Well, of course you are. Anyway, you've been able to start this ship and bring it here after all. When was right to point you towards my humble enterprise. Ha! Let me see what you have here. Nice little dinghy. Funny how it looks exactly like the one I'd built some time ago and stored in my old shipyard. See, Karen was unhappy about his gloomy, dank ark. Actually, he was always complaining about everything, but customers always right, so I built him a newer, better one. Of course, you never abandoned his previous boat. Old habits die hard. But don't worry, you can keep this one. Let's just call this a loan. And let me tell you something. You know we always joke about the construction here. Don't worry, we're still working on it. Still. Anyway, with a little bit of love, this bird will be resplendent again. The first thing you'll need is a proper blueprint table. Since it's your lucky day and I'm feeling generous, I'll offer it to you, free of charge. Mind you, it's a bit bare bones and some functionality, but subsequent upgrades will come at such a small price you'll want them almost immediately. Simply direct me to upgrade the ship. My dude. Yes. Boom shaka. Look at that. Okay, we don't have enough for that yet. Definitely don't have enough for that yet. But we don't have enough for the mailbox either. Ugh, shoot. Alright. There you go. We'll be able to build and edit your buildings on your boat. What a treat. But if you really want to upgrade your boat in size and in pleasure, I'm your guy. Come back when you feel your boat is getting too crowded. Cheers. So yeah, there's like boat upgrades and such. Okay, I think we're done. I think we can get back in the boat and head back. Get back in our dinghy and head back to our actual boat. What finally, girl? What are you talking about? Good. Albert gave it to you for free? And he said he loaned the ship to you? Ominous. Hard to know what he has in mind, but it doesn't sound reassuring. Anyway, let's focus on the task at hand for now. Cleaning up this deck. You can go to your new blueprint table above your cabin and select the move option. In it, you'll be able to remove any building and get back resources. Go for it. I'll wait down here. Okay. There you go. Wham. Oh. Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. You did a wonderful job, Stella, and the good news is you've got enough resources to add a guest house to your ship. A necessary amenity. Newly welcome spirits such as myself will have a temporary place to relax and sleep. Well, sleep. Not really. I can tell you for sure that no one will be thrilled to spend more I can tell you for sure that no one will be thrilled to spend more than one night in there. But it beats sleeping on the deck. The stars are pretty, but the wood is stiff and the humidity is hard to tolerate. I leave it to you. Have fun. Right, Gwen. Okay. Kitchen. We're looking for a guest house. That right there. And we can't do anything else. Oh. This guest house is very pretty. It has your touch. Nice work as usual. Now, at last, I have a place to sit down and enjoy the view. Oh, wait. What's going on? Something else is happening. I should have expected this. I'm actually hungry. Very hungry. You know how terrible a cook I am, but remember you being absolutely fantastic at it. You might have fished a few fishes already. Trouble is, I can't really eat an entire raw fish. I could try for sure, but I'd probably choke on the fish bone and never survive. That's not how you want me to go. And as absurd as this sounds, so you should keep on using the blueprint table of yours and build a kitchen aboard. I'm pretty sure I've seen the plans in it there, as well as the necessary resources. Damn. You require bright jelly. The only way to get... And there's only one way to get some. I should have told you when I first met you here. Something scares the hell out of me. A dark presence. And I'm... And even I cower from it. A void that swallows all night. Steph! Hi, Steph. Love ya too. I'm glad you're headed to bed. Thanks for coming and hanging out and saying hello. Even if it was just for a bit. We're just gonna be vibing, but have a really, really nice rest. Appreciate you. Appreciate you lots. It can take many forms. For me, it was always jellyfish. Yes, I'm fully aware of the irony. Bright jelly is what you need for the kitchen. Well, only these jellyfish can provide it to you. So there's no other option. I'll have to face my fears. But you're here. With you, I can do it. Here is a dark patch of pure fear on your map, so you can't miss it. Go, I'll take some time to prepare myself. Gonna... Ooh. Well, looks like I... Swimmy, swimmy, swimmy. Night Irene, just the sound design for this game. So good. Okay. Let's get... Ah. Okay, so we're gonna just get ourselves over here. Go right through it. While we're zipping along, I'm gonna throw another piece of cracker in my mouth. It's just so pretty. Why is it so pretty? This game is also really good at disseminating information and very slowly. And I'm kind of in the much later game on my Gamepass save. And so it's kind of interesting to like be on the ship as it's moving and not have anything to do, because I was at the point where there was always stuff to do while it was moving. Damn, here they come. Remember, put your eye on the ones with bright jelly. They should be visible enough. That said, pop as many as you can and you'll get glims anyway. I will wait for you inside. It's just too hard for me to stay out there. Okay, go ahead. I believe in you. Oh my goodness. It's so like eerie and beautiful. Whoops. Oh, I missed that one. Kind of not a, oh, I guess I could, oh wait, what am I doing? I should be coming at it up here because okay. Missed a whole heck ton. There it goes. Coming up. There we go, there we go, there we go. Already through it. Fantastic. Okay. I'm really impressed. You rocked out there, tumbling and diving like a shooting star without the slightest fear or hesitation at that. You definitely haven't lost your touch, Stella. You've gathered enough bright jelly to open a proper kitchen. Go for it. I'll be patiently waiting, slowly digesting myself. And we'll put it on top of the guest house. Most safe. Don't have a double jump yet. Lovely kitchen. You can now use the kitchen's oven, and it should be rather simple. Put any one ingredient into the oven and wait for it to be cooked. You could even try these loose corn kernels that I have been hanging around in my pockets. What? Can't wait to see you in your cooking glory again. You've got this. All right. Ooh. Okay. That is one of her favorite recipes. Is the popcorn. I remember that. So some of the spirits have like favorite recipes you have to cook for them. Well, I won't die just yet. Thanks, fella. It's better than I thought it could be. But then again, you've always been a wonder in the kitchen. Don't forget, spirits don't run on sunshine and water. We need a good meal once in a while. And it'll be up to you to understand who's fond of what. As for me, I'm sure you remember I've always loved comfort food. And I would die for a cup of coffee, but I'm not that picky. I can eat anything, just never the same thing twice. Oh, and before I forget, here's something I was supposed to give you. I'm not exactly sure how it works, but an opal is a symbol of passage. It's a fee each spirit has to pay you. Something tells me you knew that already. Okay, let's keep on improving this craft. You must have seen in your blueprint table there is both a field and a garden blueprint. It means you can grow many different things. And turn this ship into an adorable farm of sorts. You should add a field first, in my opinion. It's going to be easier to find resources around here, and you can grow linen in it, which in turn can be used to craft more things. In addition to building a field, well, you should go buy seeds to use in it. That will come later. I'll need you to visit an island close by called Mossstein Cove. Something we need on it. I'll tell you when we get there. What's up? Ah, yes, I forgot to tell you about this. As you can see, the boat stops at night. I believe it's a side effect of your everlight being light. Something technically. That being said, it will allow people to sleep undisturbed. You, in the meantime, can do anything you want. Tackle unfinished business or just chill on deck under the stars. I suggest you go sleep, too, in that cozy little room atop your cabin. You'll wake up refreshed and ready to go, and the ship will start up again in the morning. Oh, and speaking of that, you know me, waking up on time has never been my forte. You can ring that bell over there to wake people up. Remember, only do that at the right time. Early morning should do the trick. Speaking of sleep, it's time for me to take a nap. See you tomorrow, Stella. Have a good night. So, considering... Yeah, we're still in early game. Early game doesn't... There's just not much going on early game, so sleeping doesn't really hurt you at all. But like later game, like you're just like, oh, I gotta do all the things. Able to toggle the clock. Okay. Checker. Okay. She wants to go here. Ring bell. But don't ask me how, but I've met Albert already. He's definitely a shark, but his interest is in all things maritime will be helpful, such as the boat upgrades he sells at an outrageously high price. With those, you'll be able to cross ominous weather barriers in the world. They look like classic mythical challenges again. A bit cliche, if you ask me. All right, let's go. What's up? You know, I'm delighted that you're here with me, but I'm not surprised one bit. Dad's up. You're here taking care of me in my final hours. You've always cared so damn not much about others, always protected those you found vulnerable, even pedantic snobs like me. Remember the day my father yelled at the cat? We just got out of elementary school. You were wearing those blue sneakers with the glittery tags. There you were, yelling back at my father like you were on a mission. Father turned red and smashed the purple Delano vase. Rad. Oh yes, we are here. Whoa. In Cove. We should hop on that island over there. Maybe we'll find something interesting. Let's go. When? It's a very cozy game. Love it lots. Here we go. What a majestic tree. Well, you can cut it down. Yes, it's fine, I promise. The best way to get the wood you need, actually. But don't worry, they'll regrow over time. Another interesting fact about the Everlight. Well done. Congratulations, for you have become Death, the Destroyer of Worlds. Jokes aside, that's how you do it. Go on ahead, cutting down more trees. We can go back to the boat and build a field with all those maple logs. I'll be next to the raft. Oh, there are berries. Perfect. Can I? Oh, okay. Whoops. There it goes. Nope. I'm having trouble. Oh? There it goes. What? She comes back with you. I don't know why she just like stands there. Press. Oh, that's minus. Okay. Hi. I could go for a moose boosh. Well, hang on. I might have something new. You ready? Grilled fish. Some more stuff. Thanks, I love it. Okay. Oh, that's right. She needs okay, so we need to do the field first. That'll be all. And I'm gonna need lighting. Ah, it's better looking than I thought. There's a little je ne sais quoi to it. Simple, but elegant. You don't know what, but it's simple and elegant. Je ne sais quoi. Now all you have to do is plant field seeds there. Seeds can regrow only in their respective places. Garden seeds won't grow in the field, so don't bother trying. But you know me, I would kill plastic stick cactus, so don't take my word on this. Anyway, there's only one place where we could possibly find what we need. Theodore specializes in seeds. He has set up shop in Hummingburg, the busiest town in the area. Theodore and his brothers are the founders of Raccoon Inc. Yes, we are dealing with tanukis, even in this game. Yes, this world has serious problem of dubious business practices. Since I don't want you to get swindled, I'll come with you and do most of the talking. I've run into this cheeky little raccoon once. His dishonesty was blatant. Let's head to Hummingburg then. Here we go. Alrighty then. Go get steamed shellfish. This does something, right? Feeling much better. All right. All right. Fishing, because early game fishing. Oof. She's got a nice flick her wrist. It's really nice. Yay! We here. Hummingbird. All right. Whoops. We're here. Let's buy some seeds. Theodore has set up shop on this island. Let's pay him a visit. Okay, let's roll. I'm going home. Don't follow me. Please. I hate it when people know where I live. If you know my address, you'll tell people. And they'll tell people. Listen, I just don't want junk mail. Yeah, I hope my next game will be... What in the heck? Ready soon. I've crunched the data and spent 5 nights theory crafting. Clearly, if you take the heavy weapon proficiency from the mountain gnome race, there's a nifty synergy to the level 3 rogue ability to eviscerate. Oh, see? He's min-maxing. He's a min-maxer. It's for sure a bit weird, but hey, 5d20 and an auto crit on prone can't be defeated. Am I right? Oh, I assure you the DM will figure out a way, my good sir. Oh, let me guess. I'm a bit of a psychic, you know. Your name is Mary or Margaret? Missy! Wait, no. Eshe. Don't tell me it's... Oh, shoot. I'll get it someday. Alright. Oh! Take a good look at this shrine, Stella. It's simply stunning. Some objects in this world are meant to resonate with the Spiritfarer and the Everlight. I've heard this monument has power to enhance Everlight's abilities. The 2 slots on it need to be filled up. I'm fairly certain you could use obols to activate it, but to get obols, you need to welcome more spirits on your ship. I'm sure you'll find some more lost souls like me. Mine. You. Whoops. There's Theodore. Go ahead and take a look at what he's selling. Bye. next door to the broken door. Oh, okay. Linen. That's what we need. What? What in the heck? Nope. What was that? Those prices are out of control. I won't let him get away with this. Are you ready for me to obliterate this merchant? Hell yeah. Good. Let's do this. Theodore, I know what you're doing here, and you should be ashamed of yourself, trash panda. People like you are the reason we have middle fingers. What? Madam, what is the meaning of this? My friend here is the new Spiritfarer, but she's not a newbie, and neither am I. That little scam of yours won't work on us. But I can assure you my business practices are quite above board. Be warned, you Be warned, you treacherous striped weasel. I won't tolerate this behavior for one more second. No more shenanigans, no more double crosses. Just fair prices. So stop being dishonest at once, and next time I see you, I'll try being nicer. If you start being smarter. Got it? But yes, of course. I promise you I'll adjust my prices. I beg you, please don't scold me anymore. I'll even give you a discount. Hey, you! Yes, you! Your friend gave that greedy merchant some hell. You both look like you could possibly join the upstairs crew. You wanna come up, don't you? I can see it in your eyes. I'm not gonna lie. It is pretty cool being up here. Yeah, all the best people up here. Don't get too excited, though. Some idiot broke the ladder. You'll have to be able to jump and humanly high to get up here. I guess you could also take the stairs in that house, but some other idiot lost the key. Well, anyway, I'll see ya. Upstairs crew forever. Good lord. Good lord. Alright. Silly Tanuki. Okay. Maybe I can... Oh, jeez. This is like early game, so like all of this is pretty valuable right now. Dude, you know what? No, you can't. You can have any of my... Bye. Fantastic. You've gotten everything you need, and I'll take my leave. Feel free to stay as long as you like. I'll meet you at the pier. So, I think this is where we get Uncle? Oh, I have to... Oh, yeah. Okay. Good day to you. If you're looking for the right house to start a family, wife, garden, maybe a pool. I'm not asking for much. I just can't decide. I know that you can't help me, but please say it out loud. I might stumble on the rarest of finds. Starting to annoy me. Be gone, stranger. Okay. Okay, I think he's here. Okay, I guess I don't get him here. I guess I have to wait a little bit. Oh, Here we go. Here's Mr. Min-Maxer again. I accidentally. Too dark to navigate. All right. And Gwen is asleep. So. Luckily, your food doesn't burn, so I can always come. Oh, yeah. The poached fruit. Okay. Get a few more of those going because they take a nice hot minute. We'll wait for the tutorial, I think. Again, it's like early game shenanigans, which means there's just not a lot to do, and so I'll get to the point later where like I have to like do things pretty much all night while everybody sleeps, like smelting and everything else. Now you can plant your seeds in here. Give it a go. Cool. To talk. Your thumb is as green as your hat. The boat becomes a cozy floating farm. Don't forget that you probably have to water the plants once in a while. Don't ask my word for it, though. My gardening knowledge is as limited as my father's empathy. You'll have to find better mentors than me. Which reminds me, I believe it's time for you to find new people. Not that I love the idea of just... not that I don't love the idea of the two of us cruising the oceans. But you are the Spiritfarer, and the Spiritfarer finds spirits. Yes, help them fulfill their last wishes, however mundane they can be. I've heard of a place not far from here where someone might... Oh... I bet you'll like this one if he's who I think he is. Go. Let's sail. Let's sail. All right, but it is also bio break time, which means I don't think it'll be fine. So, it is bio break time, which means we have to go and take care of ourselves. So right now it is time to go and grab a drink, go grab yourself a snack, go to the bathroom, do what you need to do. We're going to listen to some music and be back here in 5 minutes to keep playing. I missed playing this game and I haven't played this game in a while. I really want to finish it on Gamepass, like finish the narrative and stuff, and then go for the 100%, like get all the achievements in it and that fun stuff. But first, we gotta go do our bio break. So we're gonna come back to more Spiritfarer in just a little bit. So I'll see you guys in 5. Okay. Okay, we are back, and no, it didn't pause for us, but that's okay. We're gonna get this thing moving. Oh, I should not be. Oh, I should not be yawning this early. Good night. Ooh. Hang on. Where do we need to go? Barkensham Creek. Find a passing Hummingbird. Okay, so we have to go to... Wait, we're in Hummingbird, right? This is Hummingbird. And that's Barkensham Creek. Okay, we don't need to go. We don't need to go anywhere. We're gonna just jump on our little rowboat. Whew. Oh, okay. So, okay, so now I think spirit reveals themselves, right? Where you be? I'm okay. I'm not sick. I'm okay. Goodness. Busy. Okay, so. Oh shoot. Okay. We're talking to Min-Maxer again. I don't want to talk to Min-Maxer. Apologies. No? You're gonna let me swim there, huh? Well... Whoop! Play adore your hat. The local shop raccoon ink only carrot useless items. I need me a hat like yours. Gone, stranger. Browsing for some fiber. Why do I hear sheep? Shoot. Where? Okay. Nope. Nope. Fine. Let me in. Broken ladder. I'm missing something. I'm definitely missing something. Oh, I'm definitely missing something. Okay, hang on. Oh, I'll have to go get our tool. Okay, I can't get him here. Fine. I do have to go to Bert. Okay, so I have to go to the other place first. Anyway. Fine. Fine. Please. Okay. Gonna be able to start the journey, but we're not gonna be able to finish it because it is second sleeps time. Here we go. Now we've started the, as we're traveling, being able to like do things at night. I suppose I could just sit and like fish all night. That is awesome. Oh. So, fish. Let's get us some fish. And this is where we just chill. We don't, you know, it's fish. Don't worry about it. I love it. This game is so pretty. It is such a nice, very chill game. I think Saturday I'm gonna try and get like my chores done in the morning and then just spend the rest of the day doing. I need to finish up the narrative for my Xbox. I have it on. It's on Game Pass too. So if you have Game Pass, probably the easiest way to play it. But I want to finish up the narrative in Game Pass, so I can do like my, I want 100% it because it's just so pretty. I gotta get back into that one because I want to finish this. This is gonna be for stream. I have a little bit more knowledge of it. I kind of know what's happening. It's a little easier. I don't have to sit there and go, wait, what am I doing? I kind of know what's happening, even though I just had to look at what was going on. But oh yeah, that is how I did that last time. Giddy. Boot. It is insanely easy to play one-handed too. I bet if I had like a single Joy-Con that was semi-functional, I could probably on a single Joy-Con. Fishing all night. Just working. Fish all night. This is part of like kind of grindy. It's also so much herring. It's just so much herring. Insane amounts of herring. Okay, gonna go. Such a pretty game. Definitely am thinking about now trying to make sure that I can play on Game Pass with this, because this is Windows compatible. I can use this as a controller for my computer, which is pretty friggin' dope. So yeah, I definitely want to try. Early game is just like herring. Oh, are we coming up on that part of the night where it's actually going to transition until morning? Did some good fishing. Have a lot of fish in the pockets. Also, that's a lot of fish to have in your pockets. I'm just saying. I know they're herring, I know they're small, but still. We're almost to like where we're gonna start moving. Once we start moving, I'll go cooking things, wake up Gwen, and almost. Oh, there we go. Okay, this is our last cast then. For the night. Well, in-game night. I guess I can't. Yay! I'm gonna see if Gwen has anything else for us to do. It's gonna tell you. Okay, now we wake her up. Morning. Snack would be great. Oh, what have I got? Want some mule? Is that shellfish? Oh no, not for me. Sorry. Oh, that's right. Can't have shellfish. Oh. Popcorn. Oh, thank you, Stella. I love comfort food so damn much. It's the same thing. It's the same thing twice that gets me every time. Ooh, Gucci kitty. Love how the cat isn't actually doing anything, it's just hanging on to the end. Oh, great. You're here. Listen, I just dropped a lemon in that pond. My fingers were all sticky. It just sort of slipped. Why? Good question. I've been eating delicious berries all day. Look at my hands, I swear. I've been experimenting. I wanted to squeeze a little bit of citrus on these wild fruit. Now, it's just berries with no twist. Unless it's just down there in the water. I do it myself with these pulpy fruits. I have these pulpy fruits to take care of. Lemon. Hi. I just need to find a tissue or something. I don't want to get berry juice all over it. Never mind. Just hold on to that lemon for me. Don't go and squeeze it. Wait a minute. Maybe you could help me? This island is fresh out of food. My stomach always feels empty. I could even help out aboard your ship. With cooking, fishing, and building, I don't have my spices and tools, but I'll make it work. Don't think about it so much. Let's just go on your boat. The end? Yeah, that is the end of those. Okay. Whoop. He's so sweet. 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 I'm so excited. Stella! Oh wow, this boat is amazing. Here comes the real kicker, you little rascal. Get ready for a family reunion. It's me, Stella. Your uncle Atul. Atul. Oh, okay. Arlo. Atul. Surprised? Happily, I hope. I've been on that island for a while now. I can't wait to see the sights, the sea, with you. It was lonely with my thoughts. Now, I got you, Sprout. Let's set sail for great adventure. Onwards! Wait a second. Is that, I knew it! It's a Seamaster 2000! I've actually never seen it in action. Only heard the rumors. Apparently you can catch the biggest, brightest fish out there. Now, Stella, you sure know how to treat yourself. Way to darts. And you're missing a few bolts. Let me guess you've been fishing out mostly garbage. Well, not anymore. You see the difference immediately. Go for it. Improved fishing rod. Ooh. Yes. Great job, Sprout. They never stood a chance. You sure don't mess around. That's what makes you a pro. All this ace level fishing has gotten me all rattled up, which means I had this shiny thing in my pockets on the island. I have no idea what it does. Maybe you can hold on to it for safekeeping, I suppose. Oh, brother. I need to take a breather. Oh, and by the way, you might be curious and might have already tried, but yes, the water is very salty. I'll go and take a look around. You can fish to your heart's content if you want. Would you look at that? You've got 2 obols. Remember that shrine in Hummingberg? I'd try and add them there. If we're lucky, it might do something amazing. If not, you'll have wasted your time. You should go see. Bam. Here we go. Okay, we're gonna go back through. Here we go. Watering the linen. What's up? Glad you came to talk to me. Like I said, either newer people, now new passengers. Gotta be a few people like around, lost like I was. Well, maybe not exactly like me. I'm aware of new things that might go unnoticed by most. That's probably why Father was always suspicious of me. Why Mom gave me a hard time for it. This is what I call a storm. Any respectable person would never let their friend get hit by lightning. But I think you should try. You have the Everlight. It'll protect you. The lightning bolts will cast sparkles where they're about to hit. Rush towards though. I almost forgot. Have you got any empty bottles? If you're hit by lightning with an empty bottle, you get lightning in a bottle. Isn't that bananas? This world! Lightning in bottles are a pretty handy resource, so come here equipped. As a head start, here are a few bottles for you. But don't worry, they're pretty easy to come by. Get ready for the thrill of your life. Oh. Come on. Oh yeah, I'm much faster at this on the Switch than I was on the PC. Oh my goodness, just a blam, blam, blam. I mean, if you don't do it for anything else, just play this for the sound design. Listen to that. Shoot that. And there's a tool just like playing his little flute. I wasn't sure if you were gonna make it for a second there. You gave your old uncle quite a scare. Did you feel that rumble? What a rush! You look pretty awesome catching those bolts of lightning all over the boat. Thanks for being the best captain I could ever hope for. It's so cute. It's so cute. Chill. We're just gonna chill and we're gonna fish. Go. Yes. Black tiger shrimp. Oh. I need. I need to go get some shrimp curry here real soon. Real soon. Oh, I also have to clean off the boat. Go ashore. Stiff hands from the cold weather. It's warmed. It was getting warmer today. It's 2 whole degrees. That's not hyperbole. That is legitimately what's happening. We got our first shrine. First upgrade. It's a very party. Yes. While in the air, press B again to double jump. I finally have double jump. I say finally. I've been playing for 2 hours. Yo. What's up? Kind of lied earlier. It's not so great up here. But you're here, so it might get better. I don't have a membership card for you. You'll be an honorary member of the upstairs crew. I'd show you the secret handshake, but I don't know where your hands have been. Locked. Cool. All right. My sister keeps asking me for money. How can I say no without saying no? Maybe I should ask someone to rob me. I don't want to loan my sister money. Hi, sheep. What's up? Upstairs crew forever. Now up here you have like these cute little, you see all this? You see that shit? Oh my goodness, it's so cute. Okay. Ooh, we're going up here because we're gonna get this thing. Oh, is it? Oh, it's outside. Shoot. This young person, I presume you're busy. Of course you're busy. Wait a second. You don't have a full service kitchen? Come back when you do. I have quite the pitch for you. Oh. Wait, how get... Oh, there we go. Heck yeah. Okay, I got more linen seeds from that. Okay, so he wants a full service kitchen, huh? Okay, hold up. Hold up. I've got shrine activated. Yes, let's go build a kitchen. What do you mean full service kitchen? Like, do I have to? I have probably. Wait, I can't upgrade it. Wait, what the heck? What the heck? Hi, SK. Thanks for the lurk. Appreciate you. Shoot, dang. Dang! Find a passenger and hummingbird. I don't. I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think so. Yes, I thought you had something to say. What? Rude. Rude. You're rude. I let you. So I let you know. You know. Rude. Look at these. Look at what is that? Who do you think you are? Rude. Okay. Oh, I've got all of these. I gotta use those. I know that. I need linen fiber, and I knew that. How much? How much for your stupid key? It's like 5,000. Yeah. Oh wait, I can get. No. Where are you going that you're in such a rush, sir? Ah, there we go. There she is. Yes. Yes. What? Oh, you gave me such a fright. Cat. Looks familiar. Daffodil? Is that you? Oh, yes, yes, it is. Ever so silky, aren't you? Did that. And Stella, is that really you? What a fantastic turn of events. At your boat over there at sea. You've come to rescue me again, I see. Well, not so fast. This time I'll be the one doing the teaching. You can bet on it. Going then. We have some lessons to go through. I love her. I love her. I love her. I love her. You guys are gonna see in a minute. She's just iconic, beautiful, and wonderful. And I cry soulful tears every time. Soulful. Just ugh, like I said, get ready to cry with this game. Get ready. You're not ready, but get ready because oh, help, help. Shay, my beautiful sneaky snake queen. Oh, Stella, all this air, this open space. Yes, I feel like it can grow quite. Look at me, I'm flowering already. I love her. Look at our sneaky snack goddess. Oh, getting out of this chrysalis. What a feeling. Thank you, Stella. What? Look at her. Beyond iconic. Now about the garden. Stella, don't you think the boat feels a little sad? It sure could use some greenery. As an added bonus, a small garden could serve as a nice classroom. I've been thinking about this teaching thing for a while now. It'd be called Caring for Plants from A to Zelia. Yeah, it doesn't have yeah, it doesn't ring as good as it's yeah, it doesn't ring as good once said out. Yeah, it doesn't ring as good when said out loud. Maybe I need to work on the name some more. Just I'm impatient, therefore we are sleeping for the night, and we'll do quests in the morning, but like have her. This is the character that made me sob first time I played this. Just she's our sneaky snake girl. She's lovely. I love her. I love her. Love, love, love. Ding-a-ling. Good morning, honeybee. Can I just... Hugs. Hugs. Oh, you're sweet. Morning. What can I get for you? No, sorry, Stella. You know I can't eat fruit. I've tried, but I just can't. She's so picky. No shellfish. Thanks, I love it. Bitch, and I love you. Good morning. Okay, my dude. The thing about a tool will eat literally anything, but he loves berries. Keep him coming. I can't get enough of it. He's just... Okay, here we go, here we go, here we go. Let's cook the prawn. Go. Who's yelling at me? You? No. Okay. We're gonna grab all the things. These shells. Okay. Oh, growing things before we forget. Important. Just. Okay, so, okay, to build a garden. Whoop! Building a garden. Have what we need. Perfection. Blam. There is. Okay. Shoot, we don't have any of the guest build. We don't have any of their like houses. Like they have individual houses as well, and that's gonna be. What's up? Geez, you gotta love the sights here. The sea, the sun, the breeze on my skin. It just feels so bright. I'm happy to be aboard this ship with you, my niece. Wish your Aunt Viv could see you right now, running your own ship, helping all these stranded souls. What is she doing? It really warms me heart. I'm glad you picked me up on that island. I'll try and make myself... What in the world, Gwen? Gwen! My girl, what's up? Good night, Irene. What a wonderful little garden. You really outdid yourself. Make sure there are some seeds in these plots. They'll be important. Yes, ma'am. Oh, we're gonna plant some carrots. Really like the carrots. First lesson, we'll start with something of quite. The world has some strange rules, as you've probably noticed already. Who's been a preacher for love towards all living beings. For you see, a garden is a vessel of our love, a mirror we hold to ourselves. This seems truer now than ever. Back on my island, when I was lonely, I sang to the flowers. As expected, it grew much more vigorously. Through trial and error, I've managed to write a little song. The plants seem to react particularly well to it. I want you to further test that observation with you. Go inside the garden and try planting a piece to your crop. Try planting that piece to your crops. Hold X. Okay. Oh. Don't know how long this is. That's it. Whew. Seeing how the plants have swayed grew as you entertained them. Isn't that fabulous? As I suspected, emotions in this world manifest themselves much more vividly. Well, I'll make sure. I'm sorry, I'm not doing it right. Well, I'll make sure to spread the word about this fascinating discovery. And who knows, other passengers may know how to place too. They might help in a good enough mood. Speaking of which, in all the commotion the last few days, I forgot something. Here, this is for you. Strange coin that's been tickling since I arrived here. I'm relieved it's not one of those pollen allergies again. Oh. Yes. Gonna have to go and get more seeds. Oops. Let's do the squid, because I know this will make grilled squid. Right? Stella, you did good. Now we've got a real boat going, and you've got to take care of these new passengers now. They'll be the ones testing your patience, not me. But before all that, I have something to ask you. You might have noticed by now, but the sleeping guest house is not the ideal scenario for any of us, especially since it's getting crowded in there. Look, not complaining, you know. You've been terrific up to this point, but it would be terribly rude of me to blame you for anything. I think it's time I have a space of my own. Pretentious but sophisticated with the cozy vibe. A space in which I could read and unwind far from the turmoil of the deck. Oddly enough, I'd see something with an alpine flair. See, even I can be filled with nostalgia sometimes. Again, I won't be pushy on this. I would be delighted if you could build it for me. Okay. Sophisticated and cozy. Alpine. Alpine. For Gwen. We're alright with it. Look at this. We eat stuff for it. Hello. Oh, we can build it here. Probably gonna have to go get our first upgrade here. Oh, real quick. Only 1 second, a tool. This cabin is outstanding. It really does wonders to have a place of your own. Doesn't it remind you of my old condo on Waverly? Probably the only place where I could ever get some peace and quiet. Friend. What is that? I took a look at your blueprint station. It's nice, I suppose. You know what would really make it even greater? More plans, bigger buildings, better pencils. I'm just saying. I'm sure Albert at Albert's shipyard could help you. You are probably right, Uncle Arlo. You are probably right. Oh my. We already coming up on that time? We are, but... So, whoa! So many things. Stella, I don't want to disturb you with this, but for the last several weeks, strange dreams. They were of a giant snake and of menacing reefs and fruit. And, since joining you and your crew, they've gotten much clearer. I think it's good to see the mystical energies of the Everlight. Anyway, I'm now convinced my dreams have been visions, and furthermore, I think they may be coming from our mutual acquaintance. I've been looking at the map in your cabin. My eyes keep being drawn to a specific spot that I marked. I think we must visit, and no point in making it wait. Holy buckets. There's so much happening right now. It seems there's quite a few extra faces on board. I like it, don't get me wrong. I just don't want you to forget about your old Uncle Atul. You know me. I'm Mr. Personality. I can get along with anyone, anywhere, anytime. I just don't think I'd have to make new friends at my age. You don't have to worry. I'll be all right. Sorry I even brought it up. I'll just go and stand at the edge of the boat and take in the splendor, you know? Hopefully no bugs fly in my mouth. That's no fun. But dude, you doing all right? You good? Okay, really quick. Let's just go to Albert's. Let's go to Albert's first. And then Summer also has her quest, which yes, that's over here. Quartz Dragon. But gonna go to Albert's first. I just, you know. Okay. And we'll fish. We'll fish while we hang out and see what everybody's. Oh. Let's see. How we doing? Nothing super fancy there. Just another herring. Just another herring. We're also almost done with our beer, which is all too poetic. We are balls. Oh, shoot. Yeah. I'm getting that. I mean, we're at a very good place to like stop here, with what's going on in the narrative because, oh, wreckage. Perfect, sea crash, quick jump in the water. There's wreckage. I'm sure you'll find some helpful materials in there. Very, very correct. Here I go. So, like, ugh. Go. It's a very pretty game. Very much appreciated for that. Is that it? That's all? Okay, I think that's it. We'll get rolling. Oops. Rolling once again. Except it's bedtime. Thunk through the water. So. Kinda okay. Here's the thing. Tomorrow I will do more Happy Home Designer, which is lots and lots of fun. Currently, I'm kind of more in a grindy grind situation with that, and this is going to be a lot more fun to play because there's just so much happening in it at this point in the game. So we'll get there. We will get to that point. Okay, here we go. We're at the It's Too Dark to Navigate portion of the go. Ooh, a soul. So probably what we might do is I just end up tomorrow. 'Cause it is so very good. It's like just ugh. I don't know. I have to see how I feel. I'm once again getting sucked into this game because it is just so good. Just so very good. Maybe playing the beginning of it and then on Saturday on my own time, diving in and just getting to play the last little chunks of the narrative will maybe like help satiate that a little bit so we can get on with other things and do other things. Oh, shoot. But also no guarantees because it's such a good game. It's such a good game. I do have lots of other games that I want to play. Like, I definitely want to play Hades. Listen, Hades is on Game Pass, and if I can get this to work with Hades, my 8-bit dough, oh, I need to put together an affiliate list with this on it, because y'all, this is the game controller to get if you've got a Switch, or if you got a PC too. If you got Game Pass, this is it. This is it right here. Like, absolutely love this thing. This controller. And like the ones with the arms, are good. But listen, this vintage feeling like SNES of just this being this lightweight, no drift, $50. Rude. You being rude. What is this even? We're just getting trash now. Just getting trash. Fine. Fine. Is this how we're gonna be? Is this how we're gonna be for the rest of the night? For reals? Just getting trash? Ugh. Golly. Okay. Shoot. Okay. I'm gonna go collect foodstuffs. Stella doesn't like shellfish, but we'll cook some sole maybe. She feels about that. All right, gonna go to bed and see how things are upon morning. It's all like, and also there's this place called Homer in Alaska, and there's a lot of people who like live on barges and boats, or like, some people do this in Seward too. It's very much like a whole vibe of like living on a boat in the middle of Alaska, like doing your thing. This scratches that itch of like, I'm just gonna go live on a boat in the middle of nowhere, Alaska. This scratches that itch where I'm like, that's something I want to do and it'd be super fun, and like, now I don't. Now I'm good. I'm good now. I can be a normal, functioning human who does not want to run off to Homer, Alaska, and live in a boat. Because as much fun as that would be in my mind, there's a bunch of stuff that goes on. Oh, Mr. Onion Man. See, here's the problem. There's so much good stuff happening with this game. Early game, including Mr. Onion Man. Must be the new Spiritfarer. Happy to make your acquaintance. I'm Francis. Francis, sure, but you are Mr. Onion Man. You just have to accept this. You can say I'm sort of wandering merchant. See, I'm very fond of things. Objects, curios, tchotchkes. I'll just buy everything. Simply put, I will buy anything you don't want anymore. I'm sure you've come across a few valuable little treasures already, so tell me, what is it you want to part with? My dude, you can take all of my old shoes. Please take all of my old shoes. The old carpet. Yes, the vibrant necklace. Yes, that. I have to, oh wait, no, empty shell. Empty shell. He buys the empty shells off of me. Cool. And then he sometimes has odd seeds. Those things do things. They do things. Errands, daily quests. Okay. I freaking love him. Okay, we gotta go. We're gonna talk to Albert. we talked to Mr. Onion and now we're talking to Albert, and 3 hours later, that's how this game goes. That's how this game goes. Albert, oh, dude, I've been waiting been getting your mail here for the past month. I'm not a post office. You need to add a mailbox to your phone. If I get one more letter filled with glitter, I'll lose it. I'm warning you. I might be a customer, but I reserve the right to yell at you. Get it done. Yes, sir. Okay. What is happening? Okay, I will get there. Have it. Yes. And then I'll have that. Yes. Thanks, Albert. I will get that mailbox built, my man. We have a bigger boat. We have a better blueprint table. Look at us. Look at us. We're like adulting. Yes, Gwen. I've been thinking about father recently. When I left with Doug, I didn't feel anything. No sorrow, no hate, no relief, nothing. It didn't really matter to me, but it mattered to you. You spent 3 days crying in Aunt Petunia's room. Bought you 3 sisters and gave you that damn oversized sweater I had knitted a month prior. Mom was appalled, but you felt better. I've long wondered why you were so sad. The best I could come up with is that you were sad in my stead, feeling things I couldn't feel myself. Gwen, girl, you got a therapist? Going bananas. I don't have anything to do. I've got the surplus of energy. I need to get my hands busy. Can you do me a solid? You've always been my favorite niece. What are you doing, Gwen? What is she doing? I think I need a place to focus that energy. In a sawmill. Yeah. You're just missing some of the key components. Materials. I'm sure you can find some on nearby islands. I'm counting on you to help me out. I'm sure you don't want your uncle to sleep on the deck, right? Oh my goodness. Okay, we have a lot of quests. There's so many quests. And all of a sudden, it's time to... Oh, wait. There's more. Can I help you, my good sir? What's up, my dude? Sprout, you've upgraded your boat. That's weird. Don't tell Albert, but he let some bolts loose. He was probably just in a hurry. Give me a second. Here we go. Oh, mama, that did more than I thought. Let's see. Whoa, this boat's got some advanced options now. First up, you can travel safely and not go through all the dangers that the sea has to offer. When you're using your map, you need to toggle on safe travel mode. That simple. Don't worry, it won't stay on forever. Next time you select a destination, it won't be on. I hope that helps. What else do we have here? Oh yeah, the engine's been boosted. You can now set multiple destination points. That's pretty handy. You can set your course to let the wind do its job. Besides that, it's just a bigger boat with more room. Well, have fun. Oh boy, okay. Oh boy. Build a sawmill and then visit the spot where Summer has marked on the map. Okay. Let's see. What do we need for the sawmill? Pretty sure. Yep. Okay. Quartz. Yeah, so we can't do the sawmill until we have done Summer's quest, which we are going to do, I think, probably tomorrow. Shenanigans. Okay. I'm gonna switch to. This is where we're gonna end for tonight. It has been. We actually went a little bit over time, which is not at all a problem. I freaking love this game. It was on sale for 50% off today. I posted it in Discords, but maybe this will help inspire you to snag this game next time it's on sale, or you play it in Gamepass or something, because it is so good. We're not even at the part where we're going to start crying yet, and it's already so good. The sound design, everything. It's such an interesting game. It's so intriguing. Next play session, we will probably be getting into like more of like the nitty gritty of like, look at this. So we've already done, so we've done a couple of character special events. We've done a Tool and we have done Gwen's, the jellyfish and the lightning. This summer's special events are the dragons, and the dragons hit different. The dragons are so very different, and they tie so well into summer's story. We're just gonna have to play it out, and you guys are gonna just gonna have to see because it's so good. Love it. It's gonna be so good. We're gonna have a lot of fun. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I know that I didn't stream for the last couple of nights, and today may have been a little stressful depending on where you were at within all of our communities. So thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight and just unwinding and doing the thing. I think especially Replay Crew. Hey, Replay Crew, if you are not subscribed to me and you would like to be on YouTube, you should definitely do that. Hey, Replay Crew. And if you are here, you should consider following / using your Prime sub here. We have goals. We have things that we're trying to get to so that we can do more cool things with the stream and do more cool things like everything in general. So come and hang out with me. I'm going to be back here, same cursed time, same cursed place, 11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time tomorrow. I'm trying to get Saturdays. Listen, I'm trying to get Saturdays to be a thing where like I'm not streaming at like ridiculous times at night, because I don't stream while my kids are vertical because they're still like fairly young and still need me. So like I try to be attentive and with them as they need me. So that's why we don't stream while they're vertical. Here in a couple of years, it's not going to be that way. They're going to be just like super independent, be able to like do things for themselves. Still going to need to be here for them, but not in the same way, you know, because they're like 4 and 6 and they're like really young. So eventually, we're not there yet. We're not there yet. We're hoping to get there. So this Saturday is not going to be a thing for like a long stream. So I'm going to have to like figure something out. We're going to do something on Saturday. I don't know. I don't know what we're actually going to do. We'll see. Saturday, I'm actually just planning on playing my Game Pass version of this until I just want to be done. So not really. I just want to play this. Suitably creepy music. I'm gonna go to bed because my kids are gonna be up very early. So thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight. I will see you back here tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining me. All right. Bye, I guess.